Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. So for today I'll be covering how to drive brand consideration with positive ROI. We'll just give a minute for others to join and then we'll get started. Cool. I think we can get started now. So before I dive into the topic of today's webinar, I'll just spend a couple of minutes giving a quick introduction of myself and then briefly about iQuanti for people who don't know iQuanti. We'll just talk about what we do, who we are, and then dive straight into the topic of today's webinar. So I'm Ramanuj. I have almost a bit more than 12 years of experience in digital marketing and paid media space, primarily helping clients in the North American market. At iQuanti, currently, I'm working as a director of paid channel solutions. Me and my team, our goal is to formulate paid media strategy across channels with a goal to drive, business outcome leading to digital acquisitions, revenue growth, and others. About iQuanti, we were founded back in 2008. We have been in this space for almost 16 years now. We are a full service digital marketing company. We provide powerful, predictable digital marketing programs and build them for our global brands with an approach rooted in data and deep knowledge of this space. We are a 600 plus team across various locations, headquartered in New York, and then we are also spread across several other locations within North America as well as other parts of the globe. We have won several awards in this space. We have been named and have been consistently making it to the Inc. 500 list of fastest growing private companies in USA, and we are also certified partners across several media platforms like Google, Meta, Amazon, Adobe, and others. When it comes to solutions, we provided over set of solutions, starting from consulting to demand generations to experience optimizations, and also on the measurement side with data science and advanced analytics. We kind of engage with clients in various capacities, either in consulting capacity to work closely with their in-house marketing team or agency to build strategic roadmaps to drive better business outcome, or we kind of work closely with the marketing team or support them in full end-to-end execution. When it comes to experience, we also have built several tools. One is Leap, which is a AI-driven tool to optimize experience, not only limited to creatives, but across all assets, be it creatives, landing page, focusing on user journey and other aspects of it. And then the final part of it is on measurement, where we have invested heavily in the last several years to come up with custom attribution models, advanced analytics to measure marketing effectiveness across various programs that our partners or clients might have. So with this introduction of me and iQuanti, I will dive into today's topic. So for today's discussion, we'll talk about how to stay top of the mind of consumers and make them consider your brand when they are making a decision, right? And why is this important for brands? Primarily because having a dedicated brand campaigns to focus on brand consideration, it not only helps influence purchase decisions, primarily when users are doing a lot of research about products, consuming content, how can you influence their decisions, which will be favorable for your brand. And this also in turn helps build loyalty with your customers as you provide relevant piece of information in front of them throughout their journey at various stages, and also helps you position yourself as a leader in this space, improving your position in the market. And all of this kind of translates into incremental revenue growth for your business, right? So as we looked into the importance of brand consideration, we will try to cover in the next 25 to 30 minutes in how to what are the things which go behind crafting a cost effective or effective brand consideration campaigns. And for today's topic, we will cover some of the key factors which influences brand consideration, how understanding user journey is very critical and important in formulating your campaign plan. We'll talk about some of the challenges that we see in this space when we talk to various brands, partners as we design these campaigns. We'll also cover what are the building blocks in designing effective campaigns, which will drive higher engagement rate, which will improve the consideration quotient for your brand, and then how we measure those campaigns. What are the measurement frameworks? What are the things to consider when measuring success, effectiveness of those campaigns? And then lastly, we'll also conclude this session with some of the key takeaways and then opening up for Q&A towards the end. So as we dive into this, when it comes to understanding the key factors which influences users in choosing your brand over the rest, brand reputation is definitely one of them. For mature brands, it's very important to keep the brand reputation intact. So with brands with bigger budgets, larger teams, always an ongoing program and dedicated resources to help with brand reputations. For brands which are in early stage of their growth, again, kind of focusing on improving brand reputation is important because positive reputation, brand reputation significantly boosts user decisions in considering your brand. The next on the list is product quality and competitive offers. So product quality, which according to me is the most important factor because it kind of ensures that you have a high quality product which is meeting the user's needs out there and is resonating better, providing a better user experience, which in turn helps in customer loyalty, stickiness, and kind of also results in repeat purchase from your customers, right? The third aspect of it is marketing communications, how effective and consistent the brand is in connecting with users, prospects at various stages of the journey, and how diverse the messaging is so that it caters to various need triggers and helps in kind of influencing their decision making when it comes to choosing your product. And then the last aspect of it is customer reviews and feedback. So this is again equally important when it comes to influencing potential buyers to consider your brand. Positive reviews and positive feedbacks always helps in boosting that confidence, and brands should work on nurturing positive reviews and feedbacks and also use that as a mechanism in improving their product quality. Now that we have looked at what are the key factors which kind of influences the brand consideration, for our today's topic, we'll focus more on the marketing communication side, how to design effective campaigns. But before we do that, we wanted to kind of cover the consumer journey and how the digital landscape is evolving and some of the challenges that we are seeing in this space. So when it comes to consumer journey, it's increasingly getting fragmented each day. There is no defined way people are starting their journey. It could be initiated by, let's say, seeing a video on while they're consuming content on TV and then leading to a search on Google. Or it could be starting on TikTok where they are again scrolling on their phone, consuming content, going through various short videos, and then getting influenced by a creator who might have posted content on your product. And this is not just limited to TikTok. This could be across social media platforms like Instagram, YouTube. Now, every product that a brand has is designed or developed keeping certain audience profiles or customer profile in mind. So it is very important to understand various cohorts of customer which will resonate or which will be applicable for your product. The main idea here is to understand the journey of each of these cohorts at each of these stages so that you can understand what type of information they are consuming, what type of information they are seeking for, and then kind of build content which will resonate better and drive better engagement. And for this example, as you can see here, this is someone who wants to focus on personal wealth, and it kind of starts with the person trying to gather information on how to build personal wealth, what are some of the needs required to build that wealth, or what are the needs behind those behind that interest, and then finally this can translate into a trigger which might result him or her to switch the primary bank, right? Now, when they start their journey on focusing on personal wealth, this could start from consuming a content from their favorite creator, or consuming content from aggregator sites like Nerd Wallet, where they might have talked about certain ways to invest and grow your wealth. And then once they identify the specific area where they want to focus on, where they want to kind of gather more information, they might can get more specific on certain channels which specifically talks about these products, and then finally translating it to search more on forums like Reddit, where people are more transparent, or Google to capture more information, and then finally makes decision. So as we are seeing, the customer journeys are not linear anymore. They could start from anywhere and end anywhere. There could be multiple touch points, there could be single touch points. So it's very important for us to understand the customer journey of each of these cohorts so that we can build effective campaigns and kind of connect with these consumers at each touch point or each stage of their journey. Now, as the customer journey is getting fragmented, the digital landscape is also rapidly evolving. And this is primarily to provide better end user experience as well as, kind of make it more cohesive in nature. So AI adoption is becoming more and more mainstream, be it, using AI by brands to target better, optimize campaigns better, but also it's being used more and more by creators to create content which are more engaging in nature and kind of also drives the overall engagement and viewership within these platforms, right? In addition to that, all these platforms, Google, Meta, other social media platforms are leveraging AI more and more, not only to kind of improve their products, but also improve the way they kind of engage with users, like be it AI overview, which Google is investing a lot more recently to give a completely new search experience, or when it comes to ranking content on social media feeds by factoring in various elements to make sure there is a very relevant and better user experience for the end user. And as we are seeing a lot of these changes happening in this landscape, we are also seeing social media platforms playing a bigger role. TikTok is kind of evolving out as an emerging player in the past few years, innovating a lot to connect better with users, mostly with Gen Z, to consume information. And as I mentioned earlier, social media is becoming more and more important. And last but not the least, we are also seeing stringent privacy regulations which are getting updated, getting kind of things are getting changing there to make sure it's a safe environment for users to consume content. But at the same time, it's also throwing challenges for advertisers when it comes to targeting, when it comes to measurement. So all of this constantly evolving is kind of also important as we consider the campaign strategy, channel strategy, measurement strategy for this particular objective, which is to drive higher brand consideration from your campaigns. And as I mentioned earlier, the journey is getting fragmented. It also reflects when we look at how consumers consume content online. So video formats have exploded recently. More and more platforms are trying to leverage short form videos to kind of target, engage with users. Consumers prefer raw and authentic content, which is resulting in rise of various mid and micro influencers who have small following. But when it comes to engagement rate, we see much higher engagement rate on those mid and micro influencers compared to, let's say, uh, larger influencers, celebrities, what they might have reached, but the engagement might be low. When it comes to what consumers expect from brands, we are seeing a lot of seamless digital experience, a lot of transparency, which most of the consumers prefer. But at the same time, there is a section of consumers who also prefer human touch as the last mile to conversions, right? And how particularly the Gen Z has evolved. If you look at their choice of researching brands, researching about products, it's primarily led by social media platforms, TikTok, but followed by platforms like YouTube, Instagram. And a lot of these decisions not only related to making a purchase, but also decisions related to investment, decisions related to banking products. People who are in age group of 18 to 34, 60% of them are using social media as a source of information to make investment decisions, right? So the way things are evolving, not only from the way they consume content, not only from the platform side of things, we are seeing a lot of changes here. And when we try to understand what are the challenges brands face when it comes to devise a media plan which is more focused to driving brand consideration, we see few things here. A lot of times we speak to various clients or partners. We see there is a dedicated budget or team which is focusing more on branding, but the idea is to get in front of more users, be it through print, radio, TV, and all those traditional media channels, or through digital out of home and other digital methods, mediums as well. And then there is a dedicated budget just to drive performance, which is more focused towards conversions. It could be new account signups, it could be new account opens, it could be new purchase, and those kind of metrics. But there is not a dedicated or very limited strategy around driving just consideration. And why do you see this? We see certain obstacles kind of standing in front of having brands having a dedicated strategy for driving consideration. One is lack of audience segments, where we do not see enough audience segmentation or audience segments being created or analyzed, leveraging first party, third party data, and identifying segments which are of higher value to business. Lack of dedicated budget and goals, not having very dedicated budget just to focus on consideration, or having a clear goals against those budget is also something sometimes results in not having a focus with brand consideration. The next on the list is creatives. As we know, this is more audience centric in approach versus performance focused or branding, which are more at a brand level, or even it is performance focused, it's more at a intent level. The consideration is more audience centric in nature. The effort on creative production is high because you have to identify certain audience cohorts, do a detailed research on their needs, identify what are the decision criteria they use to evaluate products, and then build creatives which kind of resonates and cater to those needs, right? And then on an ongoing basis, there has to be constant testing on creatives to drive higher outcome, because entire consideration play is on creatives. So there is a lot of effort that goes on creatives in creating diversified formats, messaging, and kind of testing it out, right? So we see a limited creative resources also being a roadblock in having a very um, well well defined strategy in place for driving consideration. The next is measurement difficulty. We see a lot of times these campaigns are evaluated either through last click conversions, or due to limited attribution models or lack of attribution, there is difficulty to establish the ROI from these campaigns, right? So we see a lack of measurement, or lack of resources or effort there to determine the right measurement protocol for these campaigns. And then the final element here is the dynamic landscape here. As the platforms constantly evolve, it is very important to stay at top of things and kind of understand which creative formats are resonating better, which platforms are coming out to be emerging platforms, and constantly testing those audiences to find the right balance and drive better outcome. So these are some of the challenges that we see in this space. And now we'll talk about how to design a campaign which is more effective and has higher chances to drive positive ROI for you, when we kind of try to focus more on the mid funnel or the consideration stage of the journey. So when it comes to designing an effective campaign, there are four building blocks to it. One is, as I mentioned earlier, the audience has to be right. Then, kind of making sure you are going after the right audience segments, and the audience segments which will add more value to your business, rather than just kind of picking some of the audiences which are available. A lot of research can go into this segment to identify and build custom segments which are very precise and very focused group of users, where you want to target and kind of amplify your brand consideration campaigns. The next is creative excellence, of course, because creative plays a big role in this particular tactic. So how you kind of make sure you are having your messages or your creative content aligned to various needs, which is tied to very specific group of audiences or specific audience segments, and then constantly testing and identifying which creatives resonates better and then building on top of it. The next block is identifying the channel mix. So once you identify the audience segments, you have to identify or understand where they're consuming content today. Like certain segments might be consuming content more on web versus certain segments might be consuming more on social media versus various other platforms. So understanding which channel they are spending time the most, and then using some sort of mechanism to rank order these channels so that you can accordingly devise your media plan when you build and plan for those campaigns. And then the last part of it, which is true, not necessarily just true for mid funnel campaigns, but true for all campaigns across the funnel, is ongoing testing and optimization, because this is where you try to find out new opportunities. You kind of tweak existing elements, be it creatives, audience, and find new avenues how you can optimize and make media more efficient. So I think these are the four building blocks of any successful in creating a campaigns which are more effective in nature. Now, when it comes to the audience segmentation, it's very important, depending on how big brand you are, what type of tools you have in your martech stack today, and what type of data you have from the first party side of things, right? So this is where, if you, let's say you have a DMP in place, you will have a lot of first party data which will be residing at your end, kind of taking that, appending some of the learnings from DMP using third-party attributes, and then building segments which have higher likelihood of translating into high-value prospects or high-value customers for you, kind of building those segments out. For medium and small brands who do not have access to DMPs or tools, because a lot of these tools come with additional cost, you can leverage your first party data, primarily looking at your CRM, your analytics, to understand various affinities, high indexed in market interest, and then leveraging secondary research or market research to come up with some of these cohorts. So on the right, as you can see here, there is an example of audience segments for checking account. And again, once these segments are built, the idea is to kind of score these segments to identify 2 or 3 segments which might make more sense for business to kind of drive or test some of this brand consideration campaign. As we create these segments, the next step would be to get a bit deeper into understanding each of these segments, looking into their demographic, psychographic data, and then understanding how they consume content, or for a particular product that you will be building those customer segments, what could be the various pieces of information they might seek out for at various stages of their journey. So establishing that understanding with various data points is very critical, because that will help you formulate your brand messaging plan, that will help you formulate your creatives content around landing pages, and then kind of help drive drive and build creatives which will drive better outcomes and higher engagement rate. So once we have mapped the various journey stages and understanding how they consume content, as I mentioned earlier, it's equally important to understand where they consume content today. And this is where leveraging some of these industry insights, or working closely with, for example, we work closely with our customer insights team to understand the content consumption pattern, understand where they're consuming content for each of these persona. This kind of helps where to invest or which channels to rank order and drive and reach them cost effectively, as well as have better engagement when it comes to specific audience cohorts. And once we have the channels identified, the idea is to bring all of this together. From our experience, we have seen some channels outshine when it comes to driving brand consideration, primarily channels like video, social media, contextual targeting are some of the channels which drive better um, engagement rate with content which are very catered to specific need triggers, or specific um, pieces of information that certain segment is seeking out for, right? So be it, kind of showing ad when they're consuming content on TV or CTV, or, kind of they're on the road tuning into various audio channels like Spotify, Pandora, or or it comes to social media, how we can leverage social media to influence and, kind of engage better with users. So this is where channels like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, influencer partnership also is kind of a channel which is leveraged by a lot of brand, and are seeing a lot of success there. And then finally, the contextual part is mostly around display native avenues where the focus is more to understand what they are actively researching on, kind of building those cohorts and translating it into contextual signals, and then targeting through these platforms. So these are some of the channels which we see working really well when it comes to driving mid-funnel consideration. Now, depending on budget, you have to the idea is to come up with a channel mix which will make sense based on the budget you have and the goal you have. Not necessarily every channel will be relevant for each product. So doing that research, detailed research based on first party, third party data, understanding where they're spending time will help us build this cross channel campaign strategy, which kind of the goal here is to drive brand consideration. And as I mentioned earlier, creative is a very critical element in driving success from these campaigns. So when it comes to creative, having a very well-defined strategy with creatives is equally important. So which kind of means there should be a creative calendar in place, factoring in some of the brand communications which might be happening through other channels, translating that and layering it with some of the segment specific messaging, and then having a very detailed calendar. This will help not only to kind of have a very diversified messaging in place, but also at the same time, given creative development takes time and there are approval process, as we all know, for any creative development that needs to be done. This will help you plan in advance and make sure the creatives are in place when there is a plan for a channel to go live, right? And even for testing, this will help you kind of plan it better and have very highly engaging creatives which resonates well with our with the user segments. Now, when it comes to creatives for consideration as a tactic, we have broadly grouped creatives into three categories: user generated content, influencer generated content, and brand generated. Most of the brands are doing brand generated content. A lot of brands also have started leveraging influencer and user generated content. There are complexities at each of these types of creatives. User generated is more generated by user. It could be in form of content contests, or hashtags where brands are promoting or um, asking users to promote, or doing a contest around that and using that content to promote on their feed, right? So this is more authentic in nature. Users are encouraged, and there is a lot of acceptance when it comes to, or a lot of interaction or engagement when it comes to user generated content. Influencer generated content is uh, more about the creatives which are created by some of the influencers or creators in collaboration with the brands. So this is again something a lot of brands are tapping into, and then the brand generated content are primarily which are developed by the brand. When it comes to engagement, we are seeing user generated content has the most powerful, followed by influencer content, and then followed by branded content. But a lot of times having user generated content, leveraging user-generated content in brand promotions becomes difficult due to legal and compliance limitations or regulations. So finding a balance between all these three format of contents can help you drive better business outcome. And within all of this, as we have seen earlier, video seems to be the best performing content overall across all these categories. So when it comes to UGC, or let's say influencer generated, brand generated, video has been outperforming all other formats. When it comes to engagement rate, video completion rate, we are seeing much higher engagement, given the push that we are seeing from all these platforms to promote more video. Even when you look at feed, any social media feed today, I think most of the posts that we see are in video formats, which is also kind of blending in with the way these media platforms work. video is outranking or outperforming out of these other ad formats. And at iQuanti, we have built a tool which is more AI-driven tool, which helps us understanding the creatives better. This not only looks at data, but also leverages 20 plus additional elements captured from each creative across objects, messaging, placement, CTA, color to help decode the performance of creatives. This kind of not only gives you insights into what needs to be tested, how what should be considered for better performing creatives, but also helps you build a roadmap, brings in competitive data also to understand what competitors are doing, and helps you come up with a very robust creative testing roadmap, which is designed to drive better engagement from these creatives, right? So we talked about influencer marketing a bit, but just wanted to spend some time on influencer marketing because this is becoming a key component in every brand's channel strategy. Social media platforms, the viewership in social media platforms or users is expected to overtake linear TV by 2025, and influencer marketing is booming within this platform. Sponsored content from influencer is kind of touching the 10 billion mark. Mostly Gen Z and millennials are responding positively to influencer content, and they are more receptive when brands partner with creators and influencers. So when it comes to consideration, we see influencer marketing, collaborating with influencers, specific influencers is very important, and is something every brand should consider and test it out to find how to engage with influencers and drive consideration for your brand. And at iQuanti, we kind of help identify and shortlist influencers which will be very relevant for their brand. Because when it comes to influencer marketing, one is kind of managing influencers, second is vetting the influencers, and then also making sure we are reporting the performance metrics from those influencers, which is at times difficult. So we leverage tools like Hype Auditor or Creator.co to kind of identify the influencers, do a very detailed screening of influencers, layering in the topics which could be relevant for your product, and then finding and shortlisting influencers, and then doing the outreach program to partner with influencers. So this is something again every brand should consider in their channel mix when it comes to driving consideration for their brand and influence decisions with the end users. Now we talked about channel strategy. Now we wanted to quickly deep dive onto measurement. So when it comes to measurement, there are few things to consider here. One is direct KPIs. So when it comes to measuring the effectiveness of these campaigns, there are direct KPIs you can look at, which will be reported, mostly reported within each of these platforms, like engagement rate, reach, video completion rate, cost per engagement. So these metrics will help you, one, to benchmark and baseline your performance. There are a lot of benchmarks available for each industry to look at how your creatives are performing compared to the industry benchmarks. Optimize them on an ongoing basis so that you are constantly optimizing creatives for better engagement rate and reducing cost per engagement. Then the next group of metrics is assisted KPIs, where you look at assisted conversions, brand searches. Are you seeing growth in brand searches? Are you seeing increase in direct visits to your website or mobile application? And then also layering in some of the brand lift studies that these platforms provide. And then finally, which is something to consider, is the attribution part of it. If there is already a attribution model in place, how do you leverage that to understand the impact of some of these mid-funnel campaigns that we will be activating? Incrementality testing is also a very good method to understand impact of new channels or some of the channels, what type of impact they are driving when the attribution is not there or it's not well defined to capture details or the impact of the platforms, right? So I'll talk a bit about how we have been using incrementality testing or incrementality studies to help brands define a long-term scalable channel media mix. So we are leveraging either mass market or people-based test and using geo clusters or customer list segmentation to identify true value of a new channel. Now, if let's say you are planning to test two or three channels, what can be done is we can define 3 or 4 identical clusters and then have a combination of channels to understand the impact of, let's say, one channel versus, let's say, mix of 2 channels versus others, right? And design the test in such a way so that with limited period you can have substantial learnings, and then that gets translated into what could be the potential impact these channels can drive if they were to scale across, a larger set of geo, right? Same goes for people-based test. Again, this is more based on audience list, either segmenting audience list into certain, ratios. It could be 50-50, it could be 90-10, and leveraging creatives to understand performance. It could be either excluding audiences and understanding the performance on the two segments, or it could be leveraging some of the techniques like PSA ads and others to understand the lift from a specific channel and the role it is playing in the overall user journey element of it. In addition to that, for brands which have higher media budget and spend heavily on brand consideration, there are ways to track performance on a regular basis just to understand if you are moving in the right direction, if your creatives are resulting in better ad recall, driving brand consideration. So some of the brand health trackers through partnering with poll surveys or other vendors kind of helps you gauge the effectiveness of these campaigns. And at the same time, some of the live studies, like I mentioned earlier, within these platforms also help in understanding the real-time results and impact of some of these campaigns that you might be running. And then lastly, we just wanted to quickly check on brand readiness. A lot of you might be marketing practitioners, or let's say you are deciding on media budget, but this is more to help you understand where you are in your journey and kind of help you. So if you're doing all of this, you must be, kind of doing it right. You are can be tagged more as a mature player in this space. For example, if you questions around like, do you have a strategy in place which is more focused or dedicated, or focused towards driving brand consideration? Do you have a dedicated budget and goal in place? Are you doing enough of audience segmentation or audience, have you done enough audience segmentation to identify the cohorts which might make sense for you to have a very audience targeted approach here? Are you using audience targeting, testing new segments, be it, third-party audiences or advanced segments, mixing the first-party, third-party? Do you have the right measurement framework, or is this a challenge? So depending on where you are and what are responses, this will help you understand where you are in this journey of driving brand consideration. At iQuanti, we kind of help customers or partners provide various tools and techniques to support each of these stages of the journey, be it, access to our center of excellence reports, or, various partner tools where you have deep audience insights, formulating it into personas using our analytics and data science practice. Be it creative productions, we have a tool which helps building videos at scale, not only limited to videos but also even landing pages testing. Then we have developed various benchmarks that are very much focused towards understanding the performance. And then kind of finally the checklist, various tools when the campaigns are in flight to optimize and improve the ROI from these campaigns. And then finally, how do you measure some of these campaigns by some of the measurement frameworks that we use, right? And then just wanted to end this session with the key takeaways from today's discussion. So having a dedicated budget is very important. Understanding where your audience is, who they are, will help you come up with very specific, diversified content tied to specific cohorts, right? And that takes me to the second point, which is audience strategy and creative planning, which is very important for success of these campaigns. From our experience, we have seen for certain products, depending on the audience segments you are going after, certain media tactics outshine when it comes to driving brand engagement. And then last but not the least, having the right measurement framework is very important to determine the impact from these investments. Uh, I'll take a quick pause, and we'll do a quick poll before we open up for Q&A. But if you have any questions, or let's say you want to understand any of these areas further, where you can always drop an email to marketing@iQuanti.com or reach out to me, and get happy to chat more about it. So let me stop sharings and launch the poll for you. Just give me a second. So I have launched the poll, and I would encourage everyone to provide their responses. We'll just maybe wait for 20 seconds before we end the poll. Okay. I think most of the responses have been around no dedicated budget and measurement difficulty has been the two key areas which is which brands see as a challenge. Thank you for providing those response. And now I think we'll just open up for Q&A. Stop sharing. I think there is a question around what are some of the most common challenges brand face when trying to balance consideration and ROI. Yeah, I think like I mentioned earlier, this is a very important aspect, and measuring ROI is very much important given you might have to justify the investment to senior leadership to stakeholders. So this is where we can use we can find a balance like I mentioned about incremental testing. So where as you start investing in brand consideration, or let's say if you're already doing it today and you are not able to connect the impact of these campaigns or the amount of engagement that you have driven through these campaigns to down funnel sales, there are techniques like I mentioned earlier. Attribution could be one, incrementality testing could be one, where you would kind of focus or concentrate your media on a very specific geo and then see how it impacts your overall sales, and then kind of take that as a learning and then translate it into down funnel sales so that you can establish some of those ROIs. What are some of the emerging trends we should be ready to incorporate? I think again, as I mentioned, it depends on which audience segments you are going after, understanding where they consume content. For example, in one of our clients who is into hospitality industry, we are testing platforms like TripAdvisor and Uber, where we are seeing a lot of intent data, which helps us to target and kind of engage with users when they are kind of taking those actions, right? So understanding which emerging platforms might resonate better with your consumer, what type of formats work, is very important for us to kind of consider in your strategy. Uh, the next question is around segment audiences to balance immediate conversions and long-term goals, right? So as very important. So when you look at your first party data, you have to make sure that the audience segments or cohorts that you are considering are representative of high quality customers, right? Because once you do that, the segments that you create are more likely to convert, more likely to drive higher business outcome for you, be it higher LTV or higher revenue for you, and that kind of translates into immediate conversions as well as long term, more important for brand to consider in long term goals, right? Cool. I don't see any questions, any further questions. Again, I think it was um, great connecting with the audience today. And if you have any questions, or if you want further information, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can also drop an email to marketing@iQuanti.com, and we'll be happy to take this up and continue further conversation based on your needs. Thank you everyone for joining.